Released during the mid-80s, Time Gal was clearly inspired by the success that similar titles such as Dragon's Lair had achieved all around the world. An interactive movie type of game where progressing depends on you passing quick time events. Time Gal was originally released in Japanese arcades and was then followed by numerous console ports. However, all but one of its releases would stay exclusive to the title's home country of Japan. It was the Sega CD version that was finally given the green light for a Western release, nearly a decade after its first appearance in arcades. Not only was its release long overdue, but it was censored, and ranging from the more common types of censoring to the pretty bizarre. Although a few of these edits were confusingly also made for the Japanese Mega CD version, but then not the other later Japanese games, which is evidence of it indeed being censorship instead of simply editing. The first of the changes that also affected the Japanese Mega CD release is actually a bit understandable. One stage during our heroine's time travelling adventure pits her against a unspecified army in some kind of desert landscape. Now the date given for this moment in history was originally 1990, which you history buffs out there will probably recognise as the year that the Gulf War started. The Japanese Sega release came out 2 years later, while sensitivity towards the war was naturally still high, and thus the date was changed for both versions to 1991. The other edit also made in Japan was perhaps a sign of Sega clamping down on more risque content. A death animation has our hero's clothes be torn off with a hard lash by a whip. These versions just displayed this animation effect instead. If this was Sega's doings though, then they didn't do a very good job at checking the rest of the game, as scenes such as this are intact, even in the Western versions. Now for the rest of the changes, these were only made for the non-Japanese release. For starters, another stage's year was censored. Originally the taboo year of 666, it was changed to 999. Although despite the fuss being made over a 3-digit combination of numbers, the giant undead monster that tries to kill you during the level was not in any way altered. More censorship came in the form of the removal of a few movie references. It's well documented how little regard Japan gave to copyright during this time period of games. Thus, a Godzilla-like creature you fight early on actually sounded like Godzilla. Have a listen. The overseas version simply removed these sound effects. Then there's the protagonist's response to being chased by a big shark, which, in Japan, is the name Jaws. But here's the localized release. Next up is the toning down of religious references. In one section, the Japanese games allow you to attempt to pray to save yourself from impending death. The Japanese text translates to pray to God, and when she gets down on her knees and prays, she exclaims, which means God. In the West, they completely lose this religious faith, and she instead hopes for luck, and this is their line when doing so. The last change is also the very last thing players will see, but only those who complete the game on hard difficulty. The devs decided to award those that did with a topless image of our hero. Outside of Japan, this was removed, with nothing substituted in its place.